Well, hello, everyone. My name is McKenzie Kan with the National Sports Media Association, coming to you from the 64th Award Ceremony and National Convention. And I have the privilege of being joined here by the 2023 Utah Sportscaster of the Year, Andrea Urban. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Yes, that was a beautiful introduction. Thank you for having me. This is I'm loving this.
There has been so much build-up to this weekend. Now that we are finally here, how do you feel?
You know, I trust me, I was like, am I really flying out to North Carolina to do this right now? I feel fabulous. It has been so amazing to meet people with the same interest and work ethic as me. Because sometimes in this industry, you can feel a little lonely. You're like, I'm missing my friends' parties, or I'm working on Saturdays, or whatever it may be. And then to meet people of all ages here doing this job that we all love, it's just like, wow, this is cool to meet some people like that.
Now, not only are you the Utah Sportscaster of the Year, you are the first female Utah Sportscaster of the Year.
Yeah.
Tell me what that title, that accomplishment means to you.
I've kind of had this whole first female thing with me through my whole career. When I went to Idaho, I was the only female when I started my career there. When I came to Salt Lake City, I was the only female on TV in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, it has changed immensely over 5 years. There's still not any females on TV, but people begin to give you a chance. And we shouldn't have to convince people that we're worthwhile or worth listening to, but it comes with the territory sometimes, and it worked out, and I'm just so proud. Like, I wear that so proudly, and I want to continue to not just inspire women, but also young men too who want to do this. Like, I think there's room for all of us and all of our successes, and how your success doesn't affect my success. There's room for all of us, and I think that it just shows that that the world and just the times are changing, and the respect is there.
If there's one thing I've noticed in particular about how you're interacting, especially with us youngsters at the convention so far this week, is you're giving them your contacts, you're wanting to help them out however you can, you're wanting to be a mentor for them. Tell me, who was your mentor? Who built that path for you?
Yeah, honestly, it was mostly just different sports directors and bosses along the way. Like, Fred Heumann was my first ever sports director when I got my internship at a station in Lansing, because I went to Michigan State. And he told me, he's like, this is how you edit. This is how you shoot the video. And if it wasn't for him in that internship, I didn't learn that stuff at college. He was like, I need you to edit it this way, and I need it to be in this amount of time, and I need you to put the duration in. So there's so much to it that you don't really realize until you get out there and do it. Rhymed. And it's just bars. And so Fred was my first one. And then along the journey, Audrey Dahlgren, was with St. Louis. She's been amazing too, because she was the kind of person who was like, don't let anyone ever tell you no just because you're a woman. And so she was awesome for me as well. And then once I got to Utah, I said it on stage during our panel today, Jazz play-by-play announcer Craig Bowler-Jack, he from day one has been like, Andrea, you got something. Keep going. He's like, don't get discouraged. He even told me, he's like, you got a couple job interviews coming up. If you don't get those, be okay with that, and don't let it stop you. So those are some names, but really just along this journey as a whole, this whole career path is about building relationships. It isn't just, I'm really good and really smart. It is 100% about being a human and befriending people.
You just mentioned the panel that you were on just a few hours ago. I had the privilege of being in the audience for that panel, but I loved how you were going through your keys to success for the individuals who didn't have that privilege of attending that panel. Can you let us in on the secrets?
Yes, absolutely. There's 5 of them. And the first one is you can never discredit hard work. I'm a big believer that even if you are new somewhere or you don't know a sport or something, you can just work damn hard, and people are going to respect that. So number 1 is you can never discredit hard work. Number 2 is know your stuff, because at some point the hard work has got to come with knowledge and education. But the third point is don't be afraid to admit when you don't know something. People love when people own their mistakes or own just the truth, and don't try to be a know-it-all, or don't try to tell a coach, do it this way because I would. No, own it and say, I don't know this. Or gosh, can you remind me what that was? And it makes for a better interview because you're being real. So those are the first three. And then the fourth one is look good, feel good. Story of our
Ours.
lives. It's the truth. If you put a good outfit on, there's a reason you walk out of there and you're like, yes, I am ready to slay the day because I look good, I feel good, and now I'm going to be able to project who and what I am because I think this also tells a story, gives off good energy. And then the fifth and final one for me is once you've gotten into the room, a press conference, a job, own it. You've earned it. Act like you belong. Don't get baffled by there's an athlete you love in the room. Oh, these people have been doing it longer than me. No. You got there. You're there for a reason. Own it. So if you do all those things, the hard work, the knowing your stuff, admitting when you don't know something, and dressing the part, because sometimes it is fake it till you make it. And then in the final step, you're in that room, own it. Own that you deserve to be there.
Now, I mean, we've heard the keys. And for my own benefit, I'd love to know from your perspective, what are some of the biggest rookie mistakes you see young people make when they're trying to either tap into the industry or stand out that, just make them stand out sometimes the wrong way?
Yeah, I think one, overworking. I think sometimes it's like, well, I want to show everyone that I can do everything. And then you spread yourself too thin and you start doing a bad job at everything instead of a good job at a few things. And there can still be more things. You can still hit a couple basketball games in the same night and do a good job. But it's when you really are just trying to be this prove yourself person, and then instead of proving yourself, you're literally digging yourself into a hole. You have to set aside time. Like during the basketball season, so I work for the Jazz as an arena host on top of being a reporter. So on my days off from being a reporter, I'm a host at the Jazz. So when I get a day off, which is very rare in the basketball season, I schedule it in my calendar like it's an appointment. Because you have to do that for yourself. And in this industry, you have to have this face that's, we're happy, we're good, everything's great, and back to you, and it can burn you. And you have to prioritize yourself. And I'm not talking just like booking a nail appointment. Like I'm really talking about putting your phone away and being with yourself. And it could be honestly watching a movie, because nowadays with the short clips that we consume, it's hard to sit down and watch a movie. Because long form is like, well, I'm not being stimulated the entire time. So I guess that's a rookie mistake is just don't try to spread yourself out too thin when you're just trying to make a name for yourself. And the second thing is actually just a technical thing. I want to suggest when editing a story together, you don't have to have everything from that interview in that story. Like I know it was an amazing interview and you felt you killed it or whatever, and you're editing it and you're like, well, this part was really important too. We don't need it, because the truth is if your story is longer than 1:30, 2 minutes, 2:30 tops, unless we're doing like a full documentary or something, you're gonna lose people. And so you have to. It was hard for me in the beginning. I did this interview with this 14-year-old girl who was like changing the basketball game, like already getting recruited or whatever at 14 years old. I wanted to make her story like 8 minutes long. Like I was like, but her mom and her brother and her, they all said these great things. You gotta cut it down, and it's okay. And I think we get attached to something that we've created or that we've done, and it's hard for us to want to cut something out. Like that's like almost offensive, but it makes your story package better when you keep it moving and have her say something, then have the brother say something, then have the mom, then go back to her. Like instead of just letting this moment play out. So that's an editing thing I want to suggest. I just remember sitting at my laptop as in college being like, how am I going to get all this in there? Guess what? You're not. And that's okay.
That's the one thing I learned at school, or my first day as a beat reporter, knowing that there's not a single person in that room struggling with making it longer.
Totally. It's just tough because you have so many moments, and then it's now I'm like, it's gotta go. If it doesn't make the story flow, if it almost doesn't make sense, even though it was a special moment, sometimes I cut the clip for myself and I keep it. Maybe I tweet the clip later and be like, what a cool moment this was with this person. Full story here. And then that way you can still see that that clip existed at one point, but it didn't make the story. And it can hurt your heart, but I promise, don't waste your time overthinking your editing.
Andrea, I'd love to test your storytelling skills if I can.
Please.
Can you transport me into that moment when you knew in your life, this is the career path I want to pursue full time?
Yeah.
This is who I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I got goosebumps. It's just so crazy because I'm sitting here at 30 years old now, and it's not that I think that that's old or young. I just remember being 18, 19, and this was just a dream. It was just a dream, and it wasn't always my dream. I wanted to dance, I wanted to act, I wanted to sing. And if you can hear it, I have a deep voice. I can't sing. I can't sing. I can keep rhythm, but I can't sing because my voice doesn't allow me to do that. And then when I was a dancer, I grew way too fast, so I had no coordination and couldn't dance. And I never got casted for any roles in plays because I was either too tall or looked too young to play an adult. And so all those things failed, and I was just like, how can I somehow be in entertainment? How? And I was an athlete as well. I played volleyball. I'm 6'1", so I put the height to good use. And I'm like, how can I do this? And so I talked about it briefly at the panel, but I job shadowed a news anchor, and she was like, well, these are the headlines: murders, homicide, car crashes, potholes, politics. And I'm just going, this is terrible, right? So the next semester, I got connected with their sports department, and at 19 years old, I was an unpaid intern at Channel 6 in Lansing, Michigan. And who knew? Who knows? I just knew that this will be cool, that I'm going to be with a camera. And it was when, on Saturday, everyone's getting ready to tailgate, and I'm getting ready to go to a football game as a student. And I'm like, well, I probably should go be with my friends and live this life, but... And then when I walked out in Spartan Stadium, out of the tunnel, like as if I'm one of the damn athletes, I walk out and I'm just like, wait a second, I can get paid to do this? I could get paid to go to a place that people pay to attend, to sit in these seats. And I could be on the reverse side of things. It's crazy because there are long days in sports, and there's days when I'm just like, this is a long day, I'm tired. And then I'm looking at the fans who saved up, their money to come to this one game, and this is my 50th of the season or whatever. I'm talking basketball now. But for this, I was probably 19, 20 years old, sophomore year of college, internship, Spartan Stadium, the media room. You have to come around the corner and then walk through the tunnel to enter the field. And it was just a beautiful fall day in East Lansing, Michigan. And it's kind of where I started to fall in love with sports. And I walk out onto the field, and it is just like, I'm allowed to be here. I've earned being here. Nobody's going to tell me, hey, what are you doing down here? Go back to your seat. No, this is my seat. And then you get the shot. Someone scores a touchdown, the ball comes right at you on the sideline, and they catch it and run at your camera. And almost, they don't even realize they're cheering at your camera, but you're right there, and you get this sensation over your body where you're just like, I just did that. I nailed the shot. Pay me the big bucks. No. And then moving forward, one of my mentors, Fred Human, my sports director at Lansing, he's like, Andrew, you were made for this job. Because like I've said to you, it comes from your soul and your personality and who you are. Like, we can all chum it up about sports. We can all talk about that LeBron James is a good basketball player. That's great. But you gotta have this natural just energy. And I had that, and I didn't quite know where to put it. And I wanted to public speak, but I didn't want to do politics. And then I realized I can talk about touchdowns and baskets, and I can tell these people now stories of how they got here. Every starting quarterback, how the heck did you get there? Mm-hmm. How? And I think all the time we shove microphones in their face, and we're like, well, you messed up on this play, but man, that kid has a story. And he worked so hard to get there, and I realized that day at that game, and then even in the basketball season came around, and one of the other students in my journalism class said to me, "You're the Channel 6 girl," and I was like, "I am the Channel 6 girl. That is so cool." And I went to the basketball game that night, and I was like, "I'm the Channel 6 girl," and that has just stayed with me throughout all of this, and now I do this for a living.
I fear that one of the biggest mistakes people my age make, and people at any age make, frankly, is going into this industry, getting an opportunity, being offered something, and thinking, oh, that's below me. You know what, that job, I don't want to go to the middle of nowhere. I want to go to one of the big national markets or one of the big cities. You didn't always start out in Utah. Can you just walk me through your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I graduated Michigan State, and I do want to say, while at Michigan State, I was the do-it-all girl. I worked for College Game Day when they came to town. I worked for Big Ten Network Student U. I worked at the Channel 6 Girl. I was doing all the things. I mean, everyone was like, okay, Andrea's going to be doing this. Like, that was my whole rep. So when you have student in front of your name, and I actually even meant to say this at the panel, but I didn't. When you're a student, take every opportunity, because once you graduate, you now become a threat, because you can take someone else's job. So when you're a student, they're like, oh, come shadow me. Oh, come for the day, we'll hire you for $15 an hour, whatever. And then you lose the title, and it's like, oh, sorry, I don't have time for you anymore, because you could now replace me. So when you're a student, take every opportunity, and that's what I did. So when I graduated, I was like, I got so much going for me. I've worked for so many people. So people know who I am. And then there was crickets. Nobody was answering my resumes, my tapes, my applications. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to help. It was an awakening. So I went onto tvjobs.com, applied to 50 jobs in the nation. I didn't even share this story, but Rochester, Minnesota offered me a job first, market 162. So it was two bigger than where I ended up. And actually, I mean, this is a real thing. When you work at a news station, you drive cars. And I'm not saying I'm this crazy car lady, but this specific station had a rule: no speeding tickets on your record ever, okay? And, well, I had one of those. And
Andrea.
I signed a contract with Rochester, Minnesota, just for them to run my ID, and you had to have no tickets of any kind, and no drugs or alcohol were in there, within 3 years. And 2 years and 10 months ago, I had a speeding ticket, which I paid, and all's good. There was no late fee, nothing was wrong. And they called me and they said, we can't make an exception for you, and we're sorry that you signed your contract, but you're not coming here. And guess what? I quit my job at Lululemon. I quit my job at Channel 6. I said, I'm going to start my career, and then lost my job the next day. So I said, I'm not getting into TV. I'm done. I was like, this isn't meant for me, girl. And so I'm like, how am I supposed to get out of this? Well, I took another 6 months to I was a waitress. I was just figuring it out, continued to apply on tvjobs.com, and that's when Pocatello, Idaho called me. I didn't even know Idaho was a real place. I mean, it is.
They have internet there?
It is crazy. Potatoes, the potato state. Holt Arena at Idaho State University is modeled after a potato cellar. I mean, they really lean into it. There's a potato museum in Blackfoot, Idaho, and I've been. So it's just like, and I said, okay, you know what? They did hire me, and everything was okay, and my license was okay. And at that time, it was past 3 years, so even if they had that rule, she's good. And I moved 24 hours across the country from Michigan State to market 164 out of 220, Pocatello, Idaho. We covered the Idaho shaped like this. We covered the bottom southeast corner of Idaho, not the skinny part, just right. And Boise is on the other side of the state. So I was 3 hours away from the city that everyone does know. I was in a small town, and I was not from there. I was young. I was a female. And you put all that together, and people are like, why the heck are we going to listen to this girl? And I just worked hard. I treated high school sports like it was the NFL. I treated Idaho State with passion. I got to know the coaches. One of my other mentors actually was Rob Fennessy, the head coach of Idaho State football, because he got the head coaching job the same year that I started as a local journalist. So we kind of grew together, and Rob would always look directly into the camera when he would do interviews, and I'm like, no, don't, that's very aggressive. Look at the people in the room and let the cameras just record you. Don't stare at the camera. I'm like, that'll make people feel uncomfortable on the other side of it. And so him and I were super, just built each other up along the way. And Rob was like, you're going to be great one day. And I was like, me too. And Rob now is on the offensive coordinator side of Montana football. So he's also growing as well. But so I'm in Idaho for 2 years. Life is what you make it. I convinced my Idaho boss to send me down to a jazz game, one jazz game, couldn't put me in a hotel, 2 hours down, 2 hours back, same night. And at that jazz game, I met my now boss at Fox 13. And 2 months later, Fox 13 called me and they said, we want to bring you to Salt Lake City. So I've been in Utah. I actually went to Salt Lake City part-time first, but it was still more money than what I was making in Idaho. So I said, oh yeah, I'm coming part-time. Even if that means I don't have insurance, I'm coming. And I went down to Utah in August of 2019, and I had 8 months before COVID, which was all access. I mean, all access, locker rooms and just things you shouldn't be seeing. And it's just like, it's crazy. And it changed a lot after COVID. But we're finally back to it, and it's been so special. And like I said, I've embraced the place. And now that I'm there, I'm a sports reporter for Fox, and an arena host for the Jazz, and on morning radio.
What do you have to say? Because you touched on it a little bit, how you went to work part-time and it was still more money than you were making in Idaho.
Yeah.
What do you say to the people, and it's me, I'm people,
Hi.
who are a little afraid or a little intimidated in the
is.
fact that this market, it's not super high paying for the demand, for the quality of work that you need to just deliver?
No, absolutely. I'm going to tell you, in Idaho, I made $24,000 for a year. And I worked overtime. I worked 7 days a week at one time when my sports director quit, and it was a flat rate of $24,000, which is actually $1,000 above the poverty line. So I couldn't qualify for like food stamps or anything because I was just rich enough to not get any help. But you know what? I'm gonna give my parents. They knew I was chasing a dream. I wasn't just like, I'm doing nothing for nothing. I really did have something going on. And so my parents helped me a lot. We had a set thing. It wasn't like, here, Andrea, here's money. We had a set thing. They were like, we're going to give you this much to help you pay for rent so then you can eat with your money and chase your dream. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here because now I don't have any help from anyone because I don't need that because I've built this. And it comes. You have to be willing to kind of just accept the reality that that's how small markets work. I'm sure it's a little better now just with inflation and all the things, but it's almost like I'm supposed to be this good looking person on TV who's got it all together, who can't afford lunch. Yep. And that was a lot for me. It was a lot for me. And then you start to see your first paychecks roll in when you make it to your next move, and you're like, oh, this is what they were talking about when they say getting paid. So it is scary. It is, but it's also very temporary. I was there for a little less than 2 years, and that's such a small timeline in our life. Think about college, best 4 years of my life. That, for me, I'm like, that was long ago. Like, 4 years, when I was in it, felt like all of it, and it's not that anymore. And so I say take the chance because it's only going to get you exactly where you want to be later.
So you've covered a number of different sports. You've got basketball, football, and then some.
All of them, soccer, yeah.
What's the strategy for approach? What are the similarities and the differences? Can you be the same person and communicate the same way?
Wow, that's a great question. In the end, and I said this on stage, so you're going to hear a little bit of repeats, but like we're all human. So in the end, each athlete, whether they're on Real Salt Lake or on the Utah Jazz, they're all working hard to be there and be in that position. And so I respect all of them, and I treat all of them like it's a big deal, even though I'm maybe more into basketball than I am into soccer, because you have to enjoy yourself. And in these games, it's a lot of them. And after a while, it's like, okay, another game. And some days you don't want to go to the games. But I just think back to people paying to be in these stands, and I get to be there, and I'm on the field. And there are people who are like, well, I got a VIP pass to walk onto the field and take one picture. And I get to go wherever I want with my media pass because I've earned it. And no one gets to tell me to go away. And it's just, I try to put my all into no matter what the sport is, and I have learned that this job and industry just fuels me no matter what. So even if I'm not covering my favorite sport, I'm still having so much fun. And I was telling a student this earlier, follow what lights you up inside. If you write a story and you hit enter and you're done and you're like, yes, or if you do a podcast and you're done and you're just like, that made me feel so good, follow the spark inside of you and chase that. And it doesn't even need to be a specific sport, or even if it is, then maybe it's like, I had someone be like, hey, we need more reporters in the Special Olympics. I ended up hosting a Special Olympic event in Utah. And it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of NFL reporters. So how else can I break down the walls? And so it's just like, continue to take every opportunity, because you're never too big for any opportunity. When you're in a coffee shop, you don't know if the person in line behind you is going to be like, that girl's got something, and it'll all lead something to somewhere.
Now, Andrea, before I let you go, because believe me, I would keep you here in this chair for the entire
so much to
week
say.
if I could. What advice do you have for those young, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed aspiring broadcasters on, where to stand out if they aren't already trying to tap the industry, how to get into it?
Yeah.
What's the words of wisdom?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I say lean into your guidance counselors at college, just because they can set you up. Like, I wasn't a journalism major. I switched to journalism when I took a public speaking class, and I'm like, they were listening to me. This is really nice. So, and then my counselor was like, well, let's put you in a marketing advertising class, see how you feel about that, and we'll put you in a journalism class, and then depending on which one you like more, we'll pursue from there. And so I say use the things that are given to you, your resources, if you're in school, and then don't be afraid to put yourself out there. DM someone. The DMs do not have to be just about sliding into them. You can seriously slide into DMs for your life and for your career. During COVID, everyone's like, well, there's no sports. What are you going to do? Guess what? I DM'd every football player that was going into the NFL draft. This is when COVID hit. And I said, I know you're sitting at home. How about you hop on a Zoom with me and tell me about yourself, and let's tell your story, and maybe it'll be seen by an NFL team. Maybe it'll help you. Like, I interviewed 6 of the 7 Utah Utes that got drafted, all because I DM them. So my advice is put yourself out there. Go up to someone and just introduce yourself. And even if it's a quick introduction, the next time they see you, they're not just going to walk by you, because it's going to be a, hey, I know that face. And it sticks around. And be memorable. I know that sounds so annoying, but like, just think about ways that you can stand out. Think about, by standing out, it can just be being yourself too. Like, embrace who you are. Be proud of that. You have to be your #1 fan, because this world is lonely. And I said it on stage, you're always going to be with yourself. You're always going to have yourself. Boyfriends, who knows what happens? Friends go separate ways. Parents move on. I mean, things happen in life. You're always going to have you. And if you don't love the person that's looking back at you in the mirror in an industry like this, it's going to crumble down on you. So just love yourself. Find something that you love and it loves you back. Feel the spark, chase the spark, and then just keep working towards it.
Andrea, thank you so much for your time, for all of these truly words of wisdom.
Absolutely.
And I mean, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You've earned this title.
Thank you.
Utah
So glad to be here.
Sportscaster of the Year 2023. You made it. You're here.
Thank you, my love. I'm so happy.
Well, I hope you have a great rest of your
You too, and you are
Enjoy
amazing
the award
as well.
ceremony.
Let me just say that really quick. You have been so confident. You have been so compelling to talk to. I wasn't even sure if you were a student. I was thinking you were from one of the states as well, maybe just a young one who won this award. So keep going, because the next time you're at this convention, you're going to be having state winner on your name tag.
Oh my God. It's those comments that make you want to keep going, and especially when they're coming from people that you look up to. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, girl. Thank you.
Amazing.